Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Careers in Accounting and Finance panel. My name is Catherine Chase, and I'll be your moderator for today. This afternoon, or this morning, I suppose, we have representatives from a variety of organizations in the accounting and finance industry who are here to share their expertise and experience with you. Before we get started, there are a few housekeeping items I'd like to review with you. First and foremost, in case of emergency, please evacuate through the nearest fire exit. So we have one at the top and one down here as well. Please make sure that your cell phone or any other devices are turned off or at the very least muted. We prefer no cell phones to be out during this session. We kindly ask that you remain seated throughout the entire session. It is only an hour long. Please postpone all questions until the end of the reviewing questions, panel discussion, as we will have an open Q&A period at the end. And finally, as many of you know, this is a Learning Passport eligible event. In order to keep things efficient, we ask that you complete your booklet, page part 1, as well as the survey that was handed out to you before you come to pick up your stamp. We'll ask that you do line up in a straight order near the exit here. All right, and I think we're ready to get started. So we'll start with Jeff, if you don't mind. Please introduce yourself, your position, and the company that you work for.
Hi, I'm Jeff Lantier. I'm Director of Business Development for Commercial Financial Services with RBC Royal Bank.
Jeff, if you don't mind, I'll get you to turn your mic on there, sir.
Would help. Sorry, Jeff Lantier with, I'm Director of Business Development, Commercial Financial Services with RBC Royal Bank.
Hi, I'm Christina Lorero. I'm a criminal investigator with Canada Revenue Agency.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Laurie Bennett, and I'm the Director of Finance at the Department of Finance and Treasury Board.
Hi, I'm Lauren O'Coin, and I'm a Senior Accountant at Grant Thornton in our Halifax office.
I am Charles Ackerman. I'm a manager of mergers and acquisitions for a diversified holding company here in Halifax called Iona Resources.
Thank you very much, everyone, and thank you again for coming today. We'll get into the next question, starting with you, Charles. What led you to the position that you're in today? What is your education, job experience, co-op professional connections, and et cetera?
Yeah, so I am a CA. I graduated from St. Mary's in 2012 with my undergrad. I kind of backed into my CA. Certainly didn't plan on being an accountant when I went to university. I went to St. Mary's and actually started a landscaping company. Super interested in entrepreneurship and figured I'd do something like that. The first accounting course I had, I actually got an A in it, and that was the first and only A I ended up having in my undergrad. So I figured it might be a good choice for something to major in. Also, I had some really good professors that really kind of pushed me towards majoring in accounting, and I did. And when I was graduating, I thought, trying to figure out what I wanted to do. Knew I really liked business. Wasn't sure what part of business I liked. So was kind of talked into to pursuing my CA. I was really fortunate. My first job when I was a kid was at a golf course, and I got to know some accountants there and kind of hit one of them up for a job. I was lucky because, like I say, I had very, very bad marks in my undergrad, but got on with a small firm in Dartmouth called AC Hunter Tellier, 10 accountants. And when I got in with the firm, got in the program and did really well, really liked it. Finally focused on academics for once. And then from there, when I finished my CA, I always liked mergers and acquisitions. I mentioned the landscaping company I had. I actually sold it when I graduated, and I guess that was kind of an indication of what I was really interested in, was buying and selling businesses and kind of the mechanics of that. So finished my CA in 2013 and started looking at jobs actually in Toronto with banks and firms. At that time, had the opportunity, actually got approached by Grant Thornton here in Halifax. And this goes to show how small of a world it is in Halifax and in general. So joined them in their corporate finance department. Spent about a year there buying and selling and advising business owners. private company transactions, things like that. And about a year ago, I had the opportunity to join one of those clients to actually do that for them, which is where I'm at now. So working primarily with businesses kind of worth 1 to 20 million and looking for acquisition and investment opportunities there. So it's kind of been an interesting road to where I am today.
So surprisingly, I didn't actually have dreams as a little girl of becoming an accountant, but it somehow happened and it led me to this profession. So I'm actually a Mount alum, and I came here in 2010 for the tourism program, and it was my first intro accounting course that absolutely hooked me. And even though I knew I wanted to work in hospitality and tourism, I came home and told my mom, I wish I could just study accounting all day, because it's the only thing I'm interested in here. So she said, well, maybe that's a good life choice. So I switched into accounting at the end of my second year, and I graduated from the Mount. I did work all through university in food and beverage and performing, so nothing related to finance or accounting. But when it came time for recruitment, my lack of experience in accounting and finance really had not a lot of impact on my eligibility. Just the ability to be able to work full-time or part-time through university, still have good grades, all of those things, and volunteer work just shows that you can manage your time well. Anything in customer service just shows that you're going to have good client relations. So those were a lot of the factors that kind of led me to getting employed with Grant Thornton. And I just finished the CPA program, writing my CFE this past September. So there's been some great educational opportunities beyond just your undergrad. And I just enrolled in the Tax in Depth program as well through CPA Canada. So lots of education, and it doesn't stop when you graduate. And I think that's pretty much what led me to my current position.
Well, I'm starting to feel very old listening to these people, and I have a much longer road. I graduated with my business degree from the University of Cape Breton, which at the time was the University College of Cape Breton, and I was the first full-time graduate of the business program at that time. And then I went on and got my certified general accountant's designation in 1989, and since then we've all merged, so we're all CPAs now. I was recruited right out of school because of my marks, so marks do count. And I got a job with the Federal Auditor General in Ottawa, and I worked there for about a year, and then I transferred to their regional office here in Halifax, and worked there for about a year and a half until I moved to Canada Revenue Agency in Sydney and did about 6 years there. So my education really helped me move along in my career. Then after working about 6 years with Revenue Canada Agency, I had 4 children in 8 years and decided maybe I'd step back and focus a little more on family. So I opened my own accounting practice in my house. So what I'd say about the accounting designation, it gave me the flexibility to move in the direction my life was moving at the time. Did that for about 12 years and really enjoyed the flexibility of that. Took my kids on school trips, and I was available in the daytime and worked my schedule around that. And then after that period of time, I decided that I was ready for 9 to 5 again, so I got a job with the province, and I started at an entry-level position. Even though I had been an accountant for over 20 years, I thought, I'll just get in and I'll move up as quickly as I can. So the area that I focused on was budgeting and forecasting, which actually is my first love. Was a budget officer for about 9 years, moved into the coordinator position for a year. In 3 years, I was manager. 5 years, I was the director, and that's my current position. So that's my story, a much longer history.
I began my degree in 1998 at St. Mary's University. During my summers, I was offered a position with Canada Revenue Agency as their summer student in the Thunder Bay office. So I did that for a couple of years. And then I wanted the opportunity to work in Halifax as I was going to school here. And because of the connections I made, my manager in Thunder Bay was able to get me a summer job in Halifax. So when I graduated, they had offered me a full-time position, and I did that. I was offered a position as an auditor, and I did that for about 12 years. And then in the past couple years, I was given the opportunity to be an investigator. So again, our responsibilities are to investigate cases of tax evasion and fraud, and I was able to use my accounting background to kind of move into that. So very straightforward.
Unlike Charles, I did grow up and dream of becoming an accountant, and I guess my plans sort of changed over the years, but essentially I went to school at Dalhousie University, did a co-op in the co-op program there, did 3 work terms with 2 different accounting firms, one or 2 of them in Halifax here, and then I did a stint with one of the same firms, Ernst & Young in Ottawa. Prior to leaving university, I was offered a job with Ernst & Young to do my CA there in Ottawa. I ended up changing that and coming back to Halifax and doing my CA here with Ernst & Young. After that, I did a short stint with the Auditor General's office for the province here in Nova Scotia, and then decided that auditing and maybe accounting in general wasn't for me long term. What I took from my experience at the firm was I liked going out and learning about different companies and meeting different people, and essentially I characterized myself as a people person. So I wanted something that was sort of more sales oriented, but wasn't necessarily a total waste of having done my accounting designation. The first job I saw that came up that fit that bill was a job with the Business Development Bank of Canada in commercial banking, so essentially working with companies, providing commercial loans and advisory services. So I worked there for almost 5 years until recently making a move to RBC as Director of Business Development and Commercial Financial Services about a month and a half ago. So continuing my career path down in sort of accounting, finance related field, but obviously on a different wavelength or different direction than I originally anticipated when I went into the program.
Very good, thank you. It all sounds as if you all had flexibility from your education to move around with what you wanted to do. So my next question is, how competitive did you find the positions in the field of accounting and finance? And we'll start with you, Jeff, if you don't mind.
Sure. In my case, I mean, the jobs to get in with the CA firms were obviously quite competitive. A big part of getting in was the co-op jobs that I did. And in order to get the original co-op jobs, it was about being proactive, reaching out to people, doing some networking ahead of time, not waiting for the job postings to come out to apply for the co-op positions that came out. Today you have all kinds of access to things like LinkedIn, where you have an opportunity to seek people out and reach out to them ahead of the jobs actually coming up for posting. And so I took advantage of some connections I had, some networks I had to reach out ahead of time and get my applications in ahead of time. I was sort of told when I did that it was too early, but it gave them my information and they said they'd reach out to me when the postings opened. So it kind of almost in a sense put the ball in the employer's court that I was somebody who was eager, and they ended up reaching out to me when the jobs were posted. So competitive environment, but it's kind of up to you to try and differentiate yourself and make some connections beyond just sending in your resume and a piece of paper. And for the record, I'm not from Nova Scotia originally, so I was able to do that even as somebody who came from away and didn't necessarily have connections in the marketplace here when I arrived.
Very good. Christina, the same question?
Having been somebody who has been staying on the side of the table who are interviewing co-op students, I would say it's rather competitive. I mean, and there are a lot of people looking for a lot of great jobs. However, what I do note is what stands out for the people looking for these jobs, and it's those who are prepared, willing to work, who are eager, and who know what they're applying for and understand what their goals are. So, I mean, again, it is a competitive market, but you're being given a skill set that's diverse and will transfer everywhere.
For me, I was born at the tail end of the baby boomers, so you can imagine back in 1986, the job market was fairly competitive, and it was through my marks. There was, at that time, there were no co-op programs or no work experience, so the marks were how you got in, and the larger companies recruited right on campus. But I'd say for you people, it's a good time to get into accounting. One of the departments, I work for a variety of departments, agencies, and crown corporations. One of the departments that I work for is Labor and Advanced Education. If you go on their Careers Nova Scotia site, and it's a site that you can look up any job that you potentially are interested in, and it'll kind of give you some labor market information on what the prospects might be, if you want to stay in Nova Scotia, what the chances are. So I looked up on the website, and right now it says the prospects for the accounting field are good in Nova Scotia, and by good they mean the chances of finding a job are better than average. A moderate amount of the workers in this field are 55 and over. Sorry that I find myself in that demographic, but and we're retiring. We see the light, so there's room for you. There's strong growth in this field, and I think any field now that's focused on education is going to be much more marketable. The median salary, according to this website, is $77,000, so a decent salary. I can say from my own experience, because I'm in the forecasting budget section, we hire for your demographic in the budget officer. And right now I've just sent out a poster. I got about 50 applications from the outside. Normally we have to look at our bargaining unit because we're a unionized environment, but I can tell you from experience, there's not many people inside anymore that have the qualifications to move into these entry-level jobs. So more and more we're hiring from the outside. So of that 50 applications that I might have in the queue, there will be at least 20 that don't meet the job qualifications that will get screened out. Right now on Career Beacon, I think there's like 6 of these entry-level jobs that are on, and they're constantly turning over as people are moving up. Just to give you a sense of what the salary ranges are in my field, an entry-level budget officer is $49,000 to about $58,000. So that's the entry level. When you move up to the coordinator level, who coordinate the budget officers, they're at around 53 to 63. And then my managers are 74 to 92. So, and we've been doing a lot of recruitment lately, so keep looking on Career Beacon, or actually we're changing that website. We'll be going to Success Factors in December, so it'll be a new website.
So I can speak from personal experience that the CA firms are very competitive. It was only a few years ago that I was sitting where you were, and all of a sudden I realized I was in my 4th year, and it was recruitment season, and I had never really thought about life after university, so that was a bit terrifying. If you looked at my resume, I had no prior experience related to my industry. I had no connections with any accountants in Halifax. My references were all like bar managers and musical theater directors. So all of a sudden it was a little bit of a reality check, like, uh-oh, I have good marks, but I didn't do anything else along the way that was really gonna differentiate me, that would make firms want me. So I freaked out for a little while, went to all the recruitment sessions, which if you're looking to do your CA with a CA firm, I highly recommend go to SMU and go to all of the recruitment events, because I don't know if they necessarily have them here at the Mount. They didn't when I went through. So I tried to conform, and I put on my black suit, and I pulled my hair into a bun, and I tried to be all businessy and talk about accounting things, even though I had no idea what I was talking about. And I realized that got me absolutely nowhere, because I looked and sounded just like everybody else. I wasn't exactly the stereotypical accountant, and I've always been kind of a people person and out there and very artsy. And it was the last recruitment session I went to, which was with Grant Thornton, that I just kind of struck up a conversation with one of the managers about alcohol and bartending and partying, and that's who I am. So we had this conversation, and all of a sudden, you know, my energy kind of attracted all these people, and I ended up making amazing connections with all of the people there at the recruitment event from that firm. And at the end of the day, when they did hire me, they said, you know, while you do need marks and you need some work experience, you need a little bit of everything. They said it was your personality. We know that we can send you out to a client and you're gonna have a great relationship with them. We know that you can do the work. It's the other things that you can add. So I do recommend trying to do all the right things as you go through university. You know, reach out to the firms and ask to meet with somebody or ask for an office tour, because networking does go so far. Co-ops is such a foot in the door, and I regret not doing co-ops. It's an opportunity for you to showcase your skills and showcase your work ethic. And once they've already seen you kind of in action and how eager you are to work, you're gonna have a one-up on all the other candidates who they don't know. So I do recommend doing all of those things. It is highly competitive, but I can vouch, I somehow got a job and it all worked out well for me. So, yeah.
Thank you.
No surprise here, I also think it's very competitive to become an accountant. You know, and I echo kind of all the sentiments that everyone else has said. I mean, for me, just to kind of give you my perspective, and I think you've seen a lot of different paths to get there. You know, I had poor marks in my undergrad. Really, you know, would have liked to have done a co-op. Marks weren't good enough. You know, that definitely would have made my life easier. I was pretty honest with myself, and I think it's important that if you decide you want to get into this profession, you have to be honest with yourself. What am I good at? What am I not good at? And how do I mitigate that? So I knew my marks weren't great. Had a decent network and really focused on that, and made a point to meet with a lot of people. Any accountant I knew in my kind of little Rolodex, I was doing it. And got very fortunate, like I say, to get offered a position with a firm, and they knew me. And that is, you really have to put a lot of effort into it. You know, for some people, if you have great marks, that can definitely help. If you don't, you probably have to work a little harder at networking. It's kind of a combination of things. Very important to know what separates you and try to highlight that. And try to look for organizations and opportunities that might be a good fit based on that. I mean, do as much research on the firms and the different opportunities as they would on you. I think it's really, it's effort is what gets results, because it is competitive, and not only is it competitive, it attracts competitive people. That was part of the reason why I was attracted to the profession. I was like, well, what's kind of the toughest, most competitive part of finance and accounting, and you know, going through the CA route is definitely that. So just, I'd say be aware of that, but don't be scared of it. I mean, if you're thinking about it, you can do it. Lots of us have. It's not, and there's lots after us that'll do it, so it's not impossible.
Thank you, Charles, and thank you, everyone. You've all touched on the topic of the competition within the field when applying for these positions, but you've also all kind of touched on the topic of the kinds of opportunity for advancements that you have, but can you also talk about the opportunities for advancement for our students as well? And we can start with you, Lori, and work our way around.
So as I alluded already, the demographic within the provincial government is fairly old too. We're probably in the 45, 46 is the average age. I think I seen a stat at a meeting that 2% of our employees are under 30. So pretty shocking. So we're moving out, so that's the good news. And I think I've been in a lot of meetings with a lot of different departments in the last little while, and there's definitely a lot of talk about youth and a focus on youth, and I think this Premier's pretty committed to that. So in my little world, most of the directors at the highest level of where I'm at can retire within 5 years. And a lot of us are tired, and we are going to retire in about 5 years. So that's a trickle-down effect. Our managers are moving up, our coordinators are moving up, our budget officers are moving up, and we're making room for new people coming in. And we're excited because when we do get a new person in, like, we think you're brilliant. You know, you can do things on the computer that we have to call IT for. And we don't want to call IT because they talk a language that we don't understand. So just a quick story, my oldest daughter was in she graduated from NSCC with her diploma in human resources, so she's working for the province too. So she's in human resources, she's at a job, and she said, "Mom, all day I do IT." And they think I'm brilliant. I went, I know, because the demographic is like me, and we're not brilliant when it comes. So anything you do for us, we're so appreciative. So they kept her on, not necessarily for her HR skills, but for these IT skills that apparently she has. But there is opportunity. That's the message of hope that I'd like to give you. Definitely is opportunity for you.
The federal government looks a lot like the provincial government right now. I think every time I check my email, somebody's retiring or there's cake in some area to celebrate somebody's retirement. So there certainly are a lot of opportunities right now. I think one of the best things about working with Canada Revenue Agency is we pay for your education once you graduate. So you have the opportunity to come in with a degree, and we'll pay for your CPA, and also our work and our training complements that program. So, you know, of course, that's attractive to a lot of people. Because of our aging demographic, we're hiring a lot of students, or a lot of people from the outside, which we generally hadn't done in the past. So if you were to go to CRA's website, you would see a whole list of opportunities across Canada. And generally speaking, a lot of these opportunities are available to anybody if you're willing to move. So stay tuned.
I would say the opportunities really are endless. Quite honestly, I mean, if you do something such as your CPA to get your designation, it really opens a lot of doors, even in non-accounting related roles. Me, for example, I'm in a primarily sales role now. It's not a role I likely would have gotten without my designation. It really provides you exposure, regardless of, I think, where you do your CPA and whether it's at a firm, whether it's in industry. You get exposure to all sorts of things, and it gives you an opportunity to get exposure to all different types of businesses and really figure out what it is that interests you and what it is that you like. And even if it ends up being something totally unrelated to your CPA, it really provides credibility to a potential employer, maybe helps mitigate something on your resume where you're maybe lacking a little bit of inexperience for the job you're looking for. It shows your ability to be able to learn things, and it really just opens, as I said, a wide variety of doors to move into totally different career paths outside of accounting and finance. So my advice to people would be, you know, if you've come this far and you want to do your CPA, even if you're not sure if it's something directly related in that field that you want to do long term, it's not a waste of time, and it does open doors and create credibility for you with different employers.
Charles?
Yeah, I would echo that. I mean, I certainly didn't get into the CPA route to be an accountant. Really loved business, but when I was getting into it, a mentor of mine said he had gone to St. Mary's years and years ago, done his CA, and actually went on to work as an accountant at a fiberglass company, became the controller, general manager, ended up buying the company. So super entrepreneurial guy. And he said, well, you know, if business was a sport, accounting would be the score. And I think that resonated with me. I was a competitive guy. So, but as far as the opportunities go, I think that says a lot about it. You know, no matter, a lot of us are going to work in small businesses, big businesses, but at the end of the day, there's a commonality. I mean, accounting and finance, having the ability to understand it and at varying levels really helps you accomplish a lot of different things, whether it is HR. I mean, if you're hiring someone, there's a salary, there's an impact. I mean, if you're in sales, obviously ties back to profit and revenue. And I mean, having a good understanding of accounting and finance is going to really, really help you regardless of where you go. I mean, as far as opportunities go too, I think I've had opportunities to take positions coast to coast, Vancouver to Toronto. I've had the opportunity to do consulting projects with businesses right across the country, and to do it from here in Halifax. I mean, I think it's a very global skill set. It's a universal language. So as far as opportunities go, and people always said that when I was getting into, you'll have so many doors will open, and until I got my letters, I didn't appreciate just how many different opportunities there were. Work-life balance. I mean, it's a really, really rewarding profession for sure.
Just want to add something quickly there. The other thing I would say is hopefully there's some of you in the room here who want to be entrepreneurial at some point. We certainly need more of that in Nova Scotia, and well, we'd like you to get started on it right away. It certainly gives you a good base on somebody else's dime and on somebody else's time to learn, some pros and cons, some pitfalls, some best practices before you go out and invest your own money and your own time in your own business. So even if you're thinking of being entrepreneurial, it gives you a great base to do that.
And I would totally second that. Having that strong foundation right at the beginning really does set you up to do really anything and everything in business. Absolutely. The opportunity for advancement is definitely something that really attracted me to this industry, knowing that I'm just not going to be in a job that's the same day in, day out for the rest of my career. If anything, it's quite the opposite. We are constantly being, challenged and, pushed to be better every week, really. Like, I can look back at my week and say I'm smarter than I was 5 days ago. And the way firms are typically structured is you're always working to get to that next level. So when I was an accountant, I spent 2 years, what can I do to get to the next level to become a senior accountant? And you do everything with that goal in mind. Now I'm a senior accountant, okay, what do I need to do to get to manager? So it's such a great kind of environment where, and everyone's in that same boat, everyone's just working towards being the best professional they can be and doing all the right things to get there. So there's tons of opportunity for promotion that way. And then there's also lateral opportunity. I've been so fortunate when I got on with the firm in, I think it was March 2014, I was hired on as a US tax analyst. I spent a few months learning everything about US tax, and then I moved up to audit and got a great foundation for financial reporting and assurance and all of those things. And then I was able to move down to our tax department. And now I have a completely new job with that. So in less than 3 years, I've gotten to see so many different areas of the accounting services that we offer just at our firm. And there's also, corporate finance and advisory where Charles previously worked. So there's just so many different opportunities just within the sole offices. Another great opportunity within firms is the ability to travel. Whether it's, just being on jobs across Canada or across North America, we also offer secondments in, I think, almost every country you can think of. I'm currently working towards going to Australia. We do anywhere from 3 months to 2 years. And that's all on the company's dime, so why not? So that kind of allows me to even incorporate my tourism degree and, my love for travel into accounting. So the opportunities are endless for sure.
So we do have many, many opportunities, and as we've mentioned from some of the panelists, that with the aging demographic, there has been a lot of cake. I can testify to that from my experience in the province co-op. So Christina, can you touch furthermore on what is it about your job that you enjoy the most outside of the cake?
Outside of what, sorry?
Outside of the cake.
Oh, well, cake is certainly the highlight. Working with Canada Revenue Agency has probably been the best decision of my lifetime, I guess besides my kids, my family, because you're supposed to say that. But, yeah, exactly. But what I've enjoyed most is the fact that I actually like going to work every day. I get to work with an excellent group of people who appreciate what my end work product is, and I do a job where I feel it matters. Which I think is above and beyond one of the most important things. Aside from that, I get to travel to Atlantic Canada, not Australia. And I get to have an excellent work-life balance. I have 2 small children, so I have the ability to go apple picking with their class or to go to their school dances and do all those things that, again, you're supposed to do. But I don't feel guilty leaving my job to do it. My workplace encourages me to maintain that balance. So I think that's probably what I do love most about it.
Lori, if we can go to you.
So my group, we're a small team of 13, and what we do the annual budget for our client departments. We do monthly forecasting, we give financial advice to our clients, we analyze any document that's going to cabinet for financial implications. I'm responsible for 4 government departments: Finance and Treasury Board, Labor and Advanced Education, Community Culture and Heritage, and Department of Business. And attached to them, there's 2 agencies, 5 Crown corporations, the Nova Scotia Art Gallery, and the Nova Scotia Community College. So as you can see by the variety of client departments and agencies and Crown corporations we have, there's a variety of issues that I deal with from day to day. I never know when I walk in what the next fire is going to be that needs to be put out that day. So I really like that challenge and a variety. My team, I love working with my team. We're a really close-knit, small team, and we work very efficiently. If I'm on vacation, my managers take over my workload. If they're on vacation, I take over theirs, and we're very interchangeable. So I like that. It gives me the flexibility and them the flexibility to try to get some work-life balance. There's a lot of problem-solving skills that's involved in my job. And it comes with a huge responsibility, because if we're not giving the proper advice to cabinet who are making the decisions for the province, something could hit the wall, and we try to avoid that. Yeah, so that's the major thing, working as a team, the challenge and the problem-solving skills. That's what I enjoy most.
There's probably 2 things that I most enjoy about my job. One is just the culture that we have at our firm. The people I work with are, honest to God, like my family. We spend a lot of time together, lots of long hours, but they're people that I really enjoy, and some of my closest friends that I've made over the last few years. And you know, it is a fun place to work, even though we work a lot. One of my favorite things, we have Beer Friday every Friday, so we just leave early and the firm stocks our fridge with beer. So like, who wouldn't want to work at GT? The other side of my job is actually just what I do day to day. When I worked in audit, you know, my audits would last anywhere from a week to 6 weeks. And it was the ability to go out to a client and get to figure out how their entire operation works. So it's not just like, I'm not writing journal entries every day. I assumed that's what I would be doing when I went through university. And it's so far from the truth. So, you know, one day I'm out at NSLC and I get to do inventory counts of alcohol, and the next day I'm at a construction site and I get to go play on all the equipment. So it's just completely different week to week, and it keeps things so interesting. I get to meet so many different people and with different backgrounds and experience. So I think that's been something that's really kind of kept me interested. And even now moving into tax, no day looks the same. You know, even the nature of the work we're doing, it's completely different every day. So it's definitely been an interesting journey.
Yeah, I would agree. A couple things that stand out for me in my accounting career and where I'm at now is variety, tons of variety. I've looked at probably, over 100 companies in the last year, and it's really interesting. You get to learn. They say you have knowledge in mergers and acquisitions. They say you end up with knowledge a mile wide and an inch deep, and it's true. I mean, you get to learn little bits and things about so many different businesses and industries. You meet so many different people. Really enjoy that, constantly learning. So I like the variety of that. Liked it at the firm, getting to meet different entrepreneurs and see their businesses, and you really get to see kind of the inside right away. The other thing I really enjoy, and this is what definitely pushed me to kind of towards mergers and acquisitions and corporate finances, I really I love growing businesses. I love seeing them grow. I love making them grow. So I find that very exciting, and kind of all the mechanics of that. And I think for me, I mean, my CPA has let me do that, and it's certainly given me the tools to do it. I really find that very rewarding.
I'd echo some of the sentiments as it relates to life at a firm. The group of people that you work with, the dynamic environment, the competitive environment. You do work long hours, at least in the first few years. But to some of the points made, it's with a really fun group of people, and you do work long hours, but you do have a lot of fun too, and unwind on Friday evenings, as was mentioned, or sometimes on the weekend if you're not working. But beyond that, leaving the firm and getting to sort of where I am today and the role I'm in today, I mean, I think in short, what I like best is getting out from behind my desk. I'm not tied to a desk most days. I'm out trying to meet with as many companies as I can, learning about companies, and really what gives me the energy every day is the energy of the entrepreneurs I'm working with. It sounds corny, sounds cliche, but it is true. Seeing some of the exciting things that are being developed here in Nova Scotia, or some of the opportunities that are in front of some of my clients or potential clients, I get a lot of satisfaction from helping those clients execute on some of those opportunities, whether it be through financing or through making a connection to somebody I have in my network that helps them get to where they are. So it's really, for me, it's goes back to what a lot of these folks said, which is the variety. Every day is different, and even sometimes when I wake up in the morning, I don't know what today's going to be like. So for me, that keeps me excited.
Very nice. So you're all enticing our students with travel, beer, variety in workplace. Lauren, do you know, I'm sure our students are wondering, does the organization you work for offer new grad, summer, part-time, or co-op positions?
Yep, so every year we hire a new group of typically CPA students or prospective CPA students. Right now we hire 20 full-time positions across Nova Scotia for people who are interested in doing their CPA designation. As well, we offer at least 20 positions in co-op roles as well throughout all of our offices. So we have offices from Yarmouth to Sydney and everywhere in between. So a lot of people who may not be from Halifax, there's a lot of rural offices where there are opportunities. Once again, I encourage to go to the recruiting events, try to network as much as you can. Whether it's my firm or somebody else's firm, you know, I do recommend just trying to make some kind of connection, even if it's sending an email or making a phone call and saying, can somebody meet with me? I'm interested in what you do there, because connections go a long way.
Charles, we'll move to you.
Yeah, so I mean, directly in my organization on the M&A side, we don't through Iona. But what's interesting is some of our businesses we own, we certainly do look for new grads, and we have co-op positions. One of them, we own a forklift business, sell and service them, about 100 employees, but we have 3 co-ops right now. We've got an IT one, sales, and some finance stuff. And we actually, over the years, we've had students come in and do projects, university students, you know, a lot of projects. You guys would be surprised what you can do as a university student. You guys are very curious and have a very different perspective, and certainly in industrial companies that can be really valuable. So I would say, you know, when you're networking and educating yourselves on, maybe it's the firms, but I would say also look at the different avenues, you know, different businesses. Don't just limit it to that, and you know, don't be afraid to pick up the phone and call these businesses and just say, listen, I'm a student, I'd like to learn more about your company. And people are, it's always impressed me how willing people are. You know, they'll do a lot to help show you about their business and help you figure out what you might like to do. So,
Jeff?
Yes, I can say RBC does hire all of the above, I guess, new grads, and there are programs in place specifically for new grads. I'm not an expert on it because I'm not in the HR field, but there are programs specifically in place for training new grads into certain positions. Certainly, there's part-time work available for sure. I know in the retail branches, and as far as co-op placements or summer internships, I know those exist as well throughout the bank, whether it be anything from probably working in commercial financial services or right to working on the trading floor in Toronto. So there certainly are opportunities under all 3 of those categories.
Canada Revenue Agency is one of the, I guess it was named one of the best employers for young people for a few years in a row. And we offer a number of opportunities for new grads, for students. Specifically, I guess in January, we'll be part of the FSWEP program, which is the Federal Student Work Experience Program. And you can enter your information into the database if you are looking for summer employment. Again, from my experience, what generally happens is our co-op students, we like to retain because we train them very specific things. I mean, income tax or HST, how we deal with it, and our systems are very specific. So historically, we've offered full-time positions upon graduation to a lot of our summer students. We also have the Auditor Development Program, which is an opportunity for new graduates who are coming out with a degree or a degree in accounting, I guess. And it brings them in, and for a year they're in a developmental program where they do a bunch of training and then are offered a full-time position. And I would think that the pay for that is somewhere between 40 and 50, and then once you're in the audit stream, it can go from 50,000 probably up to around 90, 95,000. So there are a lot of opportunities for new grads and for co-op students.
The Nova Scotia government, each individual department will hire their own co-op students, so we don't have a formalized program, but each department, and actually I'm in the process myself of trying to hire a co-op student for January, because that's our busy time, and I did say, please focus on the Mount, because I have a special place in my heart for the Mount. 2 of my girls go here, they're in the business program, so. And my niece too, is she in the audience? Can't forget her. We also hire a lot of MPA students. They take on a lot of them come from Dal, but they take on a lot of projects that we're doing. There's also a number of programs. One of my clients is Labor and Advanced Education, which I had mentioned, and they have 3 specific programs that are targeted at businesses, but there's nothing stopping a person of taking a brochure and saying, have you heard of the Graduate to Opportunity program? If you hire me, the government will pay 25% of your salary for the first year and 12.5% the second year. So, you know, I have the brochures if you want to take them, if you're graduating this year. So that's one program that we have. We also have the Student Summer Skills Incentive. So this is to connect people that are enrolled full-time either in community college or university to connect with nonprofit organizations, and there's a wage subsidy for that. And then we have the Cooperative Education Incentive Program as well, and that again is a payroll rebate to employers. So I would encourage you to look on the website, find out what the programs, and approach employers and say, did you know? We have a big push right now on the Graduate to Opportunity. You may have seen some of our television commercials and promotions. So we're really trying to push the program out. So I think any employer out there would be happy to learn about the program and learn that there's a financial incentive.
Very good, thank you. So our last question before we open the floor for the Q&A is, do you have any advice or suggestions for students pursuing a career in accounting and finance? And Jeff, we'll start with you.
I think I touched on it briefly before, but it's really do something to get yourself noticed. Don't just blast your resume out and cover letters out to 15 different jobs sent electronically and hope that yours is the one that gets picked up and somebody's going to look at. Really, really encourage you to network. And if you're sitting here thinking, well, I don't have a network here and this is where I want to work, it doesn't matter. There's so many tools available to you now to be able to reach out to people. I touched on LinkedIn. It's really invaluable. If you see a job you like, go on, search the company, find somebody at the company. It doesn't necessarily have to be somebody that's doing the hiring. It may be somebody currently working in the position that you're looking to apply for. Reach out to them, ask them for their advice. Just tell them, I've done it myself. I've reached out to somebody and said, you know, you don't know me, we've never met, but I see we have a similar background. You're working in the job that I'm considering, you know, applying to in my local market. Can you help me out? And I had this woman in Toronto help me greatly on one of my previous jobs and told me what I could expect in the interview, told me what, you know, what some of the key things are in the job that they look for. It really helps you tailor your resume, tailor your cover letter, and figure out what the job is. One very successful entrepreneur in the province said to me fairly recently, actually, was he's not been hesitant to reach out to some of the biggest players in the province, talking even billionaires, and what his advice to me is you'd be surprised how willing these people are to help. They very rarely get requests to help because people are intimidated by them or don't reach out. So I encourage you again, most people, if they're in a position of success, they haven't gotten there entirely on their own. If they think they have, they're probably wrong, and they're maybe not somebody worth dealing with. But most people have had help along the way, so please don't hesitate to reach out to people. If you're just sending your resume in, you're gonna end up in a pile. It really helps to reach out to people. Networking is key. Obviously your marks are important, but differentiating yourself, being more than just a name on a piece of paper, really makes a difference. Even if it's chatting with somebody for 5 minutes on the phone, they're gonna look for, you know, your resume, or even if it's an email, they're gonna look for your resume more than probably somebody else. So that would be sort of my key piece of advice for landing jobs.
I think my advice would be to take advantage of your co-op opportunities if you're fortunate enough to come across one. It gives the employer an opportunity to see your work ethic firsthand and to see what you're capable of, and for you to showcase what you are capable of as well. In the past, again, we've had many co-op students at CRA, and we've lost some to firms, but it gives those people an opportunity to determine what their goals are, those students, and gain valuable work experience. So I think that's what my advice would be.
I would say invest some serious time into your resume. I look at a lot of applications, and I make up my mind probably in the first 30 seconds whether I like your resume or not. So, like, make yours stand out. If you're applying for a job and they're looking for several attributes, make sure you cover them off, because they could be the screening tools, and if you don't mention them, we screen you out. There's, as we all had mentioned, there's numerous jobs that you can get in this field, and so don't be afraid to try out a few. You may not like the first one that you try, but there's something there for everyone. If you're in a job, don't be afraid to ask for new assignments, something to build your competencies. I know every year I sit down with my staff and ask them, where do you want to go? What education do you need? And how can I help you? If you're not having those conversations in the workplace, schedule some time with your employer to have them. If you can find a mentor, preferably somebody with connections, they're invaluable. They have the experience, they have the tips and tricks for you. So networking, huge. Networking is huge. Any opportunity to get out there and meet people. I mean, it's amazing. We're in a relatively small department. I mean, when Jeff came in, I said, you look familiar to me. Have we met? Well, he worked for the Auditor General office, so he came in and audited me. I apparently blocked that from my mind, but I remembered his face. Christina works with my husband. So, I mean, it's amazing when you start getting in a room how many connections. And of course, you know, we're all related somehow, right? Because we're from Nova Scotia. And somebody had also mentioned too, if you have the opportunity to do co-ops or internships, take them, because the more experience you have, the more you're going to stand out.
So my advice, learn from my mistakes, would probably be do your homework now, and while you're in university, start researching all the different opportunities that are available to you after university. And that may not be your CPA, maybe that's a different designation or a different area of industry, but do your homework now and then try to figure out what you need to do to get there. When I kind of look back at my past, there was that day when my mom said, maybe you should think about accounting, and I blindly just declared my major as in accounting, and I don't know what happened since then. I just kept doing what I was told. I was told that I go to recruiting, and I was told that I'm gonna get a job in audit, and next thing I know, I had this revelation the day before I wrote the CFE, how did I get here? 6 years later, I've been studying, in this profession all these years, and when did I make this conscious decision that this is what I wanted? Luckily it turned out and I actually love my job. But I do recommend, research it, figure out what you want, and then go after it. Don't be intimidated. Give it 100%. And, to echo everyone, networking is huge. I'm not somebody, I don't like going to networking events with a bunch of strangers. I feel really uncomfortable. However, I've done my networking through volunteering. I volunteer with tons of different organizations or different events. And the people you meet through those events, you don't know who could be a connection. And then it's not just, your elevator speech. Then it's actually kind of a relationship and you build a rapport with that person. So if you're somebody who may not, who might shy away from networking events, think of the other ways that you can go out and meet other people in the community. And it looks great on a resume, to boot.
Yeah, I would echo all those same comments everyone said. Something I found through the program and getting into accounting, there was jobs that I took that I didn't like, and there was a lot of work I did that I really didn't like. I worked very long hours, and it was hard. But I will say, and you get into the program or whatever you do, and a lot of you will figure out what you want to do when you're there, so you don't necessarily know going in. I was fortunate. I had a decent idea. Didn't know how I was going to get there, but had a good idea of kind of where I wanted to be. And I put my head down, and I did a lot of things that I wasn't the funnest. You ask me now if it was worth it, 100%. Absolutely. Would I want to go back and do it again? No, not really. But, and that built a lot of character. So I would encourage you to don't be intimidated to maybe it's not the perfect job, maybe it's not in the perfect place. But whatever you do, as menial as it may seem at the time, do the best job you can. Really, really make an effort to. And when it comes time to maybe make a change to a different job, different city, you'd be very surprised how much people will go to bat for you. When I left Grant Thornton, I was leaving the firm. I had only been there a year, and I was worried about it. And every single partner was like, "That's so exciting. If I can do anything, going forward, just let me know." And they have. True to their word. I've worked with a lot of them, and so I would just say, work hard. Don't be scared to do things you don't like, and it'll get better, but just do a great job at whatever you do.
Yeah, Charles makes a good point. Be realistic, guys. Like, your first job may not be your dream job. It may not be at the salary that your parents are making or that, you've heard your friends are making, and your first job is not necessarily the job you're going to do for the rest of your life. So be realistic with your expectations. You're not going to be a millionaire on job one, and you may not get up every day really, really excited about the job you're doing on day one, but it does lead to other opportunities and other things.
Okay, thank you very much, panelists, for offering your expertise and your insights and answering our questions. We will now open the floor to questions from our audience. Do we have an additional mic? No? Okay, so if you do have a question, please say it loud enough so I can repeat it so that our guests from NSCC who are listening live can hear it as well. Do we have any questions for our panelists? Jason?
I have two questions. You mentioned young people a lot. What about, there's a lot of mature students here at the Mount that are in their 30s, 40s, some even in their 50s. What do you have to offer them? And my second question is, how do you measure co-op versus GPA? A lot of students that'll have a 3.0 GPA with 2 years work experience versus 4.0 GPA with no work experience. So how do you measure that as well?
So our audience had two questions. The first question was the generation gap. So our mature students, what opportunities do we have for them and that your firm offers for them? And the second question was, how does work experience and GPA, how far does that get you for someone who has a 3.0 versus 2 years of work experience, and the opposite, 4.0 and little work experience? And we'll start with Jeff.
Yeah, I can sort of touch on that a bit. I think coming in as a mature student, in a lot of ways, you have an advantage over some younger students from the standpoint that you're going to have other experiences in your life that they don't have. May not be directly related to the job that you're applying for, but to some of the points made earlier, it's some stuff that you can talk about and that you can make a connection with on a personal level, maybe with somebody that you're applying for a job for. And every company, I think it's safe to say, wants a healthy balance of both, whether it's young people, mature people, and I think every good company these days is striving for diversity, whether that be in ethnicity, whether it be in age demographics, whether it be in backgrounds, educational backgrounds. I mean, every company, good company these days anyways, is striving for diversity. So I don't think you're at any disadvantage, and in some cases it may even be an advantage. When it comes to GPA versus work experience, again, I think it's a balance. You'd like to have a balance of both. The reality is, in some cases, every job you look at, it seems to ask for experience. Don't be afraid to apply if you don't have the experience. If you have the GPA and you have, good interpersonal skills, or you have other skills that you can bring to the job, if you didn't apply for every job that you didn't have the qualifications for, you'd be looking for a job for an awfully long time. The information that's put on for job requirements and expectations for experience for people in jobs is really, if everything was perfect, this is what we'd like. The reality is everything isn't perfect, and I've applied for and gotten many jobs in the past that, I couldn't tick off all the experience requirements, even if you think it's one of the more important things in the job description. You can mitigate it with other things, and so I guess it's a balance of both, but don't be discouraged if you have one and not the other. It's about trying to mitigate that.
Just to add, I think also, when you do get the call for an interview, it's so important to be prepared and understand where you have applied for and what the job is and what they're looking for and how you could somehow match your experience either from life stuff or from work stuff to help you out and to make yourself stand out against the other people applying for these jobs.
I would echo what Jeff said. The older student generally has the advantage when it comes to experiences. And sometimes you're looking at the job posting and you think, well, I don't have those experiences. But remember, everything you do, whether it's a part-time job at Sobeys or you're working at the mall, there are skills that are transferable from those jobs that can apply to what the employer is looking for. All the programs that I had touched on, they're not age discriminatory. They just want you to either be in university or a recent grad from university, so you still fit there.
I'm just going to speak to your second point. I know with GT's hiring practices, I did help out with recruiting last year. The very first kind of scan through resumes is we recalculate your GPA. There is a minimum. I'm not going to say what it is because I really don't remember. Whatever that is, if you don't meet that, then you're an automatic, you're in the no pile. So the very first thing is you have to meet the minimum GPA. Beyond that, we just need to know that you can handle the academic side. And then we look at things like work experience. I was so nervous that I wasn't going to get a job because I didn't have accounting experience. However, I ran my own business. I worked full-time and studied full-time. I did all those other things, and I really tried to highlight that when I was interviewed. And I think that really did make all the difference. In busy season, we're working 50 hours a week, and then we're still studying part-time. So that's great if you can get a 4.3 GPA, but if you have no work experience, you're not going to really be able to stay afloat having that balance between work and school. So just showing that you can be well-rounded and handle multiple things is what's really going to get you noticed.
Yeah, on the mature student thing, ironically, when I was going through St. Mary's doing my major courses, there was a mature student, a very close friend of mine, and went through the whole program with him from undergrad. Actually, he was getting his prerequisites for the CA program. He would have been in his early 40s, had a family, had a previous career, and decided that he really wanted to do accounting. Like, that was what he wanted to do. So he went back, went through the exact same process. Went to the recruiting with us, got on with a medium-sized firm in the city, has since moved on, wrote the same year as me, got a CA, and now he's with another organization. But so the point is, the opportunities were the exact same. He really, in some ways, I think you do have advantages because you probably have more life experiences, and you can bring a bit more to the table in some opportunities. So. On the GPA thing, I'll use my case as a bit of probably an extreme example, but it goes to show. So my GPA was 2.67 when I graduated. It was terrible. I used to fill in those online resumes, and it would say, "What's your GPA?" and I would always have to lie because I knew what the level was, that there was so that probably was a bit of a strike against me. But to the point, and this comes back to you have to be honest with yourself. Yeah, I guess I wasn't in that sense, but I ended up getting on with a small firm, and the reason I did probably was because I interviewed with all the big firms and was lucky to actually get interviews with some of them because I knew people, but ultimately, I mean, they were a little more marks focused. The smaller firms could look past it a little bit. And to this point, I mean, so I was a C minus student university. So I made the honor roll when I did my CA, and I don't say that to boast, but I just say it to, I was in the top 10 of the year I wrote. So just being not so great, don't be discouraged to not go into accounting because you don't have the best marks in the world. I mean, I got in the program, I had probably a lot more work once I got in, and I would definitely, in hindsight, I would have done better in my undergrad. It would have made my life a bit easier. But don't be discouraged by marks. I mean, you just have to work that much harder in the other aspects, and you have to be honest with yourself about it.
Yeah, and I would be probably somewhere in between. My GPA was okay, but it was a combination of the networking and my GPA certainly wouldn't have impressed anybody at the big four accounting firms if they were going solely based on GPA. So there's different. You know, if you're sitting there thinking, geez, I'm in my fourth year, my GPA is not great, or there's different ways to get there, I guess, and that's, I think, what all of us are sort of saying is, if you're weak in one area, then you want to highlight your strengths in the other area and find ways to mitigate it. So.
Thank you, Jason, for your questions. Do we have any other questions from the audience? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I guess a bit of both. I think doing your accounting designation really lends itself well to the finance world. So I mean, initially when I took the job in banking, it wasn't strictly a pure sales role, although sales is always a big part of, if you're a commercial account manager, whoever you're working for expects you to go and find new accounts. So I kind of took the skills and to Lori's point, just about, you know, you can go into whatever job you've taken, you can take skills out of that apply to whatever job you want to go into, and it's kind of how you tailor it. So in the accounting world, working in an accounting firm, I was out every week or every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks meeting with a new company. I wasn't in a sales role, but part of my job in that job was developing a relationship quickly with whatever client I was out in front of. So that's something that I would play up on the sales side of things. I had a job at a grocery store when I was a kid that was, you know, really a customer service job. So all these things that seem menial at the time, you can take skills from that lead you to get out there. And then from working at the accounting firm, obviously I started to develop a network. And so my sales pitch to my first job in commercial banking was, I already have an established network within the accounting community. That's an area that every bank tries to get a lot of business from, is from accountants, getting accountants to refer you to their clients. So it was really playing up on that. Certainly I've had some skills to learn in terms of account management, but most companies, any bank you work for, generally will have a good program around developing that skill set and flushing it a little bit. But really it was the credibility of having my designation and then playing up on some of the skills you learn from that job, and in some cases maybe exaggerating them a little bit, not in a dishonest way, but really thinking about what are they going to be looking for in this job, and what have I done in my past work, whether it's past work experience, whether it's volunteer experience, and just leveraging that.
So for our NSCC students, the question was specific to Jeff. Did he continue his education to transfer from a CA position to more of a sales position? Or did he just use previous experience and skills that he had to reflect that towards the new position, the transfer of the position that he had? Do we have any last questions for our panelists? No? So now I want to take the time to thank our panelists for coming in today, for volunteering their time and their efforts towards our Career Week panel. Thank you so much again for attending. For our students, thank you for coming. For the Learning Passport stamp, you can see Elsie and I believe Paulette, who's by the door, has the stamp, so you can come see us to get your Learning Passport stamp. And again, thank you so much.
If anybody wasn't comfortable asking a question in front of everybody, I can only speak for myself, but I'm willing to stick around for a few minutes if people want to have a quick offline chat.